happy Masters Sunday, and thank you so much for joining us on the Football Recruiting Report. Ailey Weiss, joined by the one and only Otis Kirk. Otis, there's a big four-star recruit that Coach Silverfield got over the weekend. I know that you have lots to talk about him, so let's just get right into it. I know you're excited.
Yeah, I may boot his name, but I'm going to give it a try. I did get the right pronunciation. Now, whether I can do it or not, that's a different story. Odiafe Oruro is how I think you pronounce it. I feel good about the
We're
last
trying
name.
hard here,
First
guys.
name,
Yeah.
I'm kind of punting it a little bit. Odiafe Oruro.
Okay.
He's from Jinx anyway, and I probably kicked his name around twice wrong. So I'll just call him Big O. But anyway, 6'6", 310. Yeah, they got a commitment from him. And I'm telling you, that was a big get. And, one thing to get him, and that would have been huge if you get him 2 days before signing day. But to get him this early, I think he provides a little bit, and I talked last week about the momentum and I felt like it was coming and go start getting commitments because they were stale at one. That was one before they even got here. And so they really hadn't added anybody, but now they have, and I feel like though getting him is more than just getting a commitment. I mean, you get a 4-star from Jinx, Oklahoma, one of the best high schools. It provides you some momentum with other recruits. Maybe some somewhat national guys that have a lot of offers and are looking. Hey, this kid, big kid from Jinx thinks it's good enough for him. It's probably good enough for me. Here's what I like about him. I like it. He just dominates. He doesn't mess around. But second, his versatility. He can play left tackle, left guard, right guard. He can play anywhere on the offensive line. I don't know if he can play center, but otherwise, I know he can play those other spots. And when I say play him, I'm not talking about just plug him in. I'm talking about putting him out there and him excelling at those spots. It's one thing. Most people that size and can play inside or out if they were called upon, but they might get killed if they're out of position. He's not going to do that. He'll hold his own and pretty much dominate inside or out. I like him at tackle, but I know some of the recruiting services like him as an interior lineman. Regardless, like I said, it doesn't matter. Arkansas will probably play him where Coach Myers feels like and Coach Johnson feel like they need him the most. And if that's tackle, fine. If it's guard, fine. And he may end up cross-training at both positions, because in this day and age of scholarship limitations, which that's not going away, but in days of travel squads, it's good to have versatile players. So if you've got him can play 4 positions on the offensive line, that's like when you get on that travel squad, you've got a guy here you can maybe you might need to take an extra receiver or something, and you can do that if you've got an offensive lineman who can play 4 positions. So it's a win-win for everybody involved. Yeah. But like I said, I think the biggest thing with him was just getting him this early because you're getting a solid player, but you're also getting somebody that I think can help you with momentum. And they're on some other players. They're on a linebacker at Bixby. They're on a safety, a cornerback from Broken Arrow. They're on other players from Oklahoma, and and that's a perfect situation for those kids. They're about 2 hours from Fayetteville, give or take, and it's close enough they can get away from home.
Yeah, exactly.
But they can also get home if they need to, without maybe standing in line at the airport for hours. They can jump in the car and be home in 2.5 hours, hour and a half, whatever. And so that's huge. And but that's Jinx is a program like Broken Arrow, like Tulsa Booker T, like Tulsa Union. They just have kids every year. They never run out of Power 4 recruits. They just don't. And so, and Bixby's getting, that's where Jeremy, that's where, they got the tight end Luke has from. So, I mean, it's just great programs over there in Oklahoma. So anyway, just getting him, I feel like really helps get this recruiting train. I said was gaining momentum last week. Yes. Here's what I think is happening. And I actually talked to some people about this week after they saw the segment, and they said wasn't disagreeing with me, but they didn't feel like the fans, a lot of them were still buying in. Well, not necessarily not buying in, but they were still taking a wait and see. Okay, I don't disagree with that. There are fans doing that, and it's understandable. But here's where I think Ryan took the smart angle. I think first he got the team to buy in, and he got the recruits to buy in. And that's what I said last week. I didn't say all the fans were buying in. I said, I think now the recruits were taking a wait and see back in January when they came to the prospect day, junior day, whatever you want to call it. when they came to that, I think a lot of them were taking a wait and see approach. But I think now they've talked to the players that are here, the
Mm-hmm.
players, then the recruits have started buying. When you get those two groups buying in and you put a good product on the field, the rest of them take care of itself. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm not implying that all the fans are not taking a wait and see. Sure, they are. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of them are. Some not. Some may have said the heck with it. I'm not watching them anymore. You know, you can't. I'm not going to take a broad paintbrush and paint everybody. But I
Right.
know there's fans that take it a wait and see. But what I'm saying is, Ryan is he got the players. Because I don't know, when they had that meeting that Sunday night, I think it was when Ryan was hired Sunday afternoon, Sunday night. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what every player in that room was bought in, you know. I'm sure
Right.
some of them, their head was spinning, you know. I'm sure it was. But it's shown now when you talk to them at the press conferences over here or just interactions, you just see it. The
Mm-hmm.
players have bought in, and now the recruits seem to be buying in. That's what I was hinting at, or what I was talking about last Saturday or Sunday when I said I thought the recruit train was getting ready to take off. Because I don't think the recruits necessarily are taking a wait and see approach anymore. I'm sure some of them are, but now I think more of them are not, and I
Mm-hmm.
think they're buying in. And getting all these visitors, they had a bunch here yesterday. They had a bunch last Saturday. They've got more coming in this week, and then in 2 weeks at the red white game, they'll have a bunch of recruits. Let's
Mm-hmm.
just hope Dan gives us good weather that day because weather hasn't been good on that spring game day. But
No.
I'm counting on Dan that day to come through for us. But anyway,
Yes.
they'll have a bunch of recruits in. So the next 2 weekends are going to be huge. Not just the weekends, but I know they've got some kids. Big defensive lineman from uh, 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 over by Jonesboro coming in on Tuesday. Eli Thornton, he's been here before. He got offered. So it's big. Every time you can put your product on the field, and they can see those assistant coaches working with the players, and they see the buy-in and the attitude stuff. I think it helps. Well, I know it helps,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's what he done. But getting Big O wasn't the
Yep.
only commitment they got. They added
No,
another one.
and you called it last when we met last weekend that it would kind of be a domino effect. You just need one or two to commit, and then it's going to start trickling down the line. So the next one to come in
Exactly.
was Zakkorius Huzzy, Georgia commit, or
Yeah,
committed.
from
He's from
Lagrange,
Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lagrange, Georgia. Another good high school. They turn out kids down there every year. I'm not as familiar. I mean, I'm familiar with them, but not like Broken Arrow or Jinx or stuff. I've been to those schools a million times,
Mm-hmm.
and so, but Lagrange I know has kids every year. He's 6 foot 175, versatile kid. Uh, Chose Arkansas over some other offers. Memphis offered him and tried to get him while they were there, and they get here and they offered him, and he jumped right on that. I mean, SEC. You're getting an SEC offer, and he's the type that can play. There again, I think he's versatile in that he can play the corner, uh, and probably a special teams dandy.
Okay.
Complete, very good on special teams. So I think that's somebody that has a good chance, like to get on the bus when he gets on the travel squad and help out at maybe one more than one position. And but anytime you can get a cover corner, you're doing well. Those are hard to come by, and it's obviously a priority in this class, just like big offensive linemen are. And getting Zakkorius was huge. And again, I think that helps you in Georgia. You're getting
Mm-hmm.
one from Georgia. They're on a bunch of players from Georgia, a bunch of players, especially defensive backs for some reason. They're on a bunch of defensive backs from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And so that state turns out a lot of kids. Not all of them want to stay home. Not all of them can stay home.
Mm-hmm.
Them Georgia Tech can't offer everybody. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of those kids do leave the state. They go to Arkansas, Florida, wherever. And getting Zakkorius, I think, was a big pickup for them. He's a 3-star, not the 4-star that Aurora was, but anyway, he's a good prospect, and so we'll see how it works out for him at Arkansas. I think it'll be fine though.
Yeah. A lot of eyes on that quarterback position right now between KJ and AJ, those two battling it out. But we've talked about kind of last weekend and bring it over into this weekend as well of you still have to bring in a quarterback, or you feel, that you need to bring in a quarterback every recruiting class. So
Oh
they
yeah,
just offered someone in Will Wood this past weekend, but he wasn't even here.
yeah. He's from Westwood, Massachusetts, and he was here this weekend. Got offered, and he's one of the top quarterbacks, just below a 4-star.
Mm-hmm.
Just below a 4-star. He's got a bunch of offers. I'm going to give you three schools that's on him that's going to be really interesting. He's got 20-something offers, but Boston College, you say that because he's the in-state school,
Right.
home state school.
Right.
But North Carolina, a guy named Bobby Petrino recruiting. We
Mm-hmm.
know Bobby. And then Arkansas, yeah, like I said, Stanford and many others are recruiting. But I just found those three schools were really interesting because
Yeah.
with Boston College, you never want to count out your home state school. You just
Right.
don't.
Yeah.
You just don't. And I know he likes them, but I don't know. He's not locked in there, but I do know he likes Boston College. Will went out to eat with Coach Ramsey and Coach Cramsey and Coach Stewart this week. The quarterback coach, the offensive coordinator, went out with them a couple of days there and ate lunch with them. So
Mm-hmm.
did some bonding with them, and that's important. Got to watch the scrimmage. Got to
Mm-hmm.
watch the scrimmage. I was going to say two practices, but no, you got to see the scrimmage, and they didn't practice Friday. So it was a scrimmage, one practice, but he did get to see that. But he got to spend time with the coaches, which I think was huge. I'm
Yeah.
sure he got to spend some time with the players. I don't know that, but I'm sure he did. But anyway, he led his team to an 11-2 record up in Massachusetts last year. He's someone that, like I say, he's just below a 4-star. He may be with a good, strong senior season. One thing we see he's a winner because he went 11-2 with his team. So, I mean, obviously he knows how to win.
Right.
And I'm not sure where that team stands in Massachusetts. I'm not that familiar with high school football in Massachusetts, but obviously it's a pretty good high school because he's recognized enough that a lot of schools from all over the country, Stanford,
Yeah.
Arkansas, North Carolina. So it's not just Boston College, UConn offered him. It's schools from all over the country. So,
Right.
he's locked in. They're seeing what they like in him. He's a pretty good sized kid. I think he's like 262, 215, maybe something like that. Anyway, got good size, and he can throw the football and versatile player, versatile quarterback. So, I wouldn't put him. I wouldn't say. I'd say more of a passer than runner, but I feel like he can do either. And he's not a statue back there in the pocket. I guess is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying. If
Okay.
he can offer you mobility, he's got mobility. And so I don't, I'm not calling him a second coming of Taylor Green, but he does have, he does have the ability to stay in
He
the
can move.
pocket, or if it breaks down, he can get out there and ride.
Okay.
Now he's not 6'6" either.
Yeah. All right. Brjan Malachon is the last one that we're going to talk about today. He's going to be here on Saturday and then also going to be back again in Fayetteville in late May.
Yeah, they had him. He's from North Iberville, Louisiana. They had him that big recruiting weekend we talked so much about the last weekend in May. 6'2", 165, can be a receiver or cornerback at the next level. He's that versatile. He can return kicks. He's one of the most versatile pure athletes in Louisiana, is what I've been told. Uh, he's somebody that's got a lot of offers, and he really likes Arkansas, and he's even thinking about coming back for the spring game. So that would be 2 weekends in a row, plus be
Mm-hmm.
back in May. If he does that, that shows you he's got strong interest in the Hogs,
Yeah.
and I think he does. And so, they've got ties down there. Coach Jack has got from Louisiana. I know Coach Roberts has coached down there some in the state. So they've got ties to Louisiana, and other people have been there too. So they've got ties there. And like I said, he's someone from Louisiana that's very capable of playing a lot of positions. I had someone from down there tell me, said he's probably one of the best two-way athletes in Louisiana in a 2027 class. So, you never hurt yourself getting there. You can get him, then you decide where you're going to play him later on, whether it be receiver or be at cornerback. And those are spots you always need help at. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like you're not going to ever need a cornerback. It don't matter if you get 4 in this class. You could always use another. You
Yeah.
just can. Because
Yep.
cornerbacks, boy, they're tough to find, true
Mm-hmm.
cover guys, and receivers, you can never get too many. And so,
And you never
they're
know
doing
who's going
well
to stay
there.
throughout the years with how everything in
Well,
college
that's
sports
it.
works now. So, yes.
Yeah, that's
Um,
it. You can't sign a kid and say well, he's going to be here for his 5th year. You don't know that. You don't know if he's
exactly.
going to be here year 2. So yeah,
Exactly.
you've got to always be planning for the now more, maybe more so than the future.
Mm-hmm.
Both,
All right.
but both possibly, but for the now, yeah.
And then briefly, really quick before we have to go, just your thoughts and takeaways from practice so far.
Yeah, Courtney Crutchfield is a kid that I've been high on the whole time. Went to Missouri, committed to Arkansas out of Pine Bluff High. Went to Missouri, left there, came here last year, battled whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know that he just didn't. seem to fit in, but he is really taken off this spring. I know Coach Smith, the wide receiver coach, set him down, talked to him. They had a one-on-one, and he took it to heart. I think Courtney did, and boy, he is. They even sent out a little video yesterday saying, death, taxes, and Courtney Crutchfield getting open. Those are sure things. And they wouldn't have put that out 3 weeks
Right.
ago. So that really shows you. Coach Smith said recently that he was really doing well, was coming on. And I think when you see that little video yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
little highlight they sent out, I think that
Mm-hmm.
shows you. I feel like the offensive line is really coming along. The offensive line is really Malachi Braylon, the Williams kid, Bryant Williams from Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
So they've really got some good players there. You had, of course, you had Caden and Cody coming back from last year. So I think that unit's coming around. Receiver with Courtney. I feel like the Lockwood tight end played with Alabama and Boston College, didn't fit in for whatever reason there. I think he's coming on at Arkansas. He's always had the talent.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the top recruits in Tennessee as a high school. And then I think the defense is just coming along really well. They've got a brand new secondary for the most part. Miguel Mitchell's back, but other than that, it's brand new. Bradley Shaw's coming on at linebacker. I loved him last year. I
Mm-hmm.
think they had two seniors there, but Bradley found a way to get in there and play a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel pretty good about, of course, Quincy Rhodes on the defensive line. And if David Oakey can just stay healthy, that's the key with him. David Oakey, a defensive tackle, if he can just stay healthy, which he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't able to do last year, but if he can, you've got you a solid player there. So I feel like a lot of things are falling into place for him. I'm anxious for the 25th to see him more in a scrimmage situation than a
Mm-hmm.
practice with a 30 minutes or an hour. But anxious to see that red-white game, and that's why I sure hope the weather holds off so we can see. And not just that, I think that will help with the fans too if they can get out there and see that game. I
All
think
right.
it
Well,
helps with the fan.
heard it here. Otis Kirk feels like everything is falling into place for the Razorbacks this spring. Only about 2 weeks out from the spring game, we'll get to see more of it, and everybody will get to see it actually in action for our own eyes. But that'll do it for this Sunday. Ailey Weiss and Otis Kirk, thanks so much for joining us.